You are so bright and articulate, and I guess I can call you articulate since you're not an American black. Can't say that about them. That's derogatory. Oh, and I agreed with many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates when you were running for president. But I still would not have voted for you because you're an Indian.
How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Vivek Ramaswamy interviewing Ann Coulter, and the interview going completely off the rails almost immediately. I mean, as soon as he introduced her, it took her 30 seconds to go from 0 to 100 in terms of racism. Now, I'm not the kind of guy that just throw around the R word so willy-nilly. If something is racist, it has to be obviously racist. It can't just be, oh, maybe she meant this, maybe she meant that. I mean, there's no other way to take it, in my humble opinion. Now, before I get to it, I just want to say this for full disclosure. I liked Vivek out of everybody in the running, aside from Trump, of course. Everybody went out there, they ran, they had the debates, they had their campaigning, they gave their speeches. But the best one out of the bunch was Vivek. It didn't matter that he's Indian. It didn't matter that he is a certain age. I just thought he did the best. Now, some may disagree with me, and that's totally fine. But from my point of view, if you're really not a racist, the main thing would be, is this person a good candidate? Can this person get the job done? That'd be my point of view, okay? And even if, let's say for the president, you mostly have white guys that are there, that's totally fine. If every single year a white guy is the best guy, then so what? If one year a white guy is not the best guy, then so what? It doesn't matter to me. I don't particularly care one way or the other. Let me just get the best guy in there. But Ann Coulter thinks a little bit differently than I do. And before I go any further, let's get into the actual news clip. Well, this is like a podcast. I think it's his podcast. And I'll link to the whole thing in the box. I'm going to play the majority of this, but not all of it. And without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
Oh, and I agreed with many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates when you were running for president. But I still would not have voted for you because you're an Indian. There is a core national identity that is the identity of the WASP. And that doesn't mean we can't take anyone else in, a Sri Lankan or a Japanese or an Indian.
So WASP, for you guys that don't know, that's white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. All right. So she's saying that identity should be the identity that we really focus on the most in the country. And if I'm wrong about anything that I'm saying, y'all let me know in the comments.
But the core around which the nation's values are formed is the WASP. We've never had a president who didn't have at least partial English ancestry. Never.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's an interesting tour through that historical layer.
Now, I got a question. Is Joe Biden the bad president because he's not Protestant and he's a Catholic, allegedly? A baby-deleting Catholic, but a Catholic nonetheless? I'm just trying to understand what's going on because, I mean, just because you fit into that category, does that mean you are a good pick for the president or leadership? If you have a stone cold stomp down liberal who happens to be a WASP and you put him up against Vivek Ramaswamy, would you vote for the stone cold stomp down liberal because they fit the racial and so-called cultural identity? I'm just trying to understand, Miss Ann Coulter. What are we doing?
But I want to pick on one point you said, which is citizenship, right? Let's talk about what does it mean to be a citizen of a nation. And it's interesting, if a lot of people trip up on this, they'll say, well, it means what you get, right? Do I get to vote or do I get some other claim? And that doesn't really work. Actually, if you look through most of American history, for example, women were citizens long before women could vote, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's not about what you get. In my book, and I think that this is true with the American conception of citizenship, I think it's true of the Roman conception of citizenship, is it's about your loyalty, actually.
Yes.
To whom do you actually pledge loyalty? And so I think you and I share that in common, actually. I don't know, I've never asked you this, Dan, but I assume from seeing the things you said, tell me if I'm right about this, you're probably against the existence of dual citizenship as a concept. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Yes, you and I share that in common.
Outrageous.
It's incoherent. It's not just outrageous. It's incoherent. It's oxymoronic. How could you possibly have a loyalty to two different nations where the essence of citizenship is which nation to whom you had your undivided loyalty? That's what the essence of.
I mean, I agree with this part. I mean, I think that if you are a U.S. citizen, you're a U.S. citizen, you know, but I don't know. I guess it depends on what's going on. Okay, let's say you're born in Dominican Republic and then you immigrate to the U.S. Must you denounce your DR citizenship? Because we do allow immigration. See, that's the thing. Now, if you're coming over here as a migrant illegally, that's a whole different story. But if you are a legal immigrant, must you denounce your previous citizenship? That might be a good that might be a good way to vet out some people. But that's a different story. Let's keep on going.
So citizenship is all about. So you and I agree on so much there. But where I wouldn't say lose you, but I may fail to fully understand you, is on that axis of citizenship, what does ethnicity have to do with the matter?
Great question, Vivek. Let's see what our response is.
And I think you would be well served, and maybe this could be a great platform for you to do it, to make the case for why that, what you put it, WASP basis for the American identity, how is that relevant against a backdrop of which you got the WASP seventh generation descendant of some rich guy on the Upper East Side in Brooklyn that pretends to hate this country because it's the cool thing to do, versus somebody who came here as the kid of immigrants, but pledges loyalty to this country? If loyalty was the axis for citizenship, aren't you actually committing a bit of a sin, reverting back to a conception of citizenship that has nothing to do with loyalty in the first place?
Great question, and very, very well framed. See, that's why I like Vivek. That's why I like him, because he's on it. So let's see the response.
Well, I will say many of those seventh generations WASP I definitely hate. I know we have a lot of really, really bad ones, but like I said, anyone can adopt this. I guess what I just said, if any of your children marry a DAR, I would definitely vote for them for president. It's not so much, it's more, president is different. You have to be natural born, as you know, which, by the way, Ted Cruz is not, basically because of what you were just describing. Where is the loyalty? So ambassadors' children born actually in the United States are not natural born, but that's a total sidebar. I've gotten
It's actually not a sidebar at all. I mean, the fact that ambassadors' kids born in the United States are not citizens is actually an overlooked fact. If the kid of an ambassador from Mexico does not enjoy birthright citizenship, neither does somebody who's in this country illegally.
Yes.
Birthright citizenship either, right? So
yeah, that's kind of crazy, because if you're born on U.S. soil, I was always told that you get automatic birthright citizenship. But if you're an ambassador's child and you're here in the States when you're born, you don't get automatic birthright. That's kind of different. That's weird. Yeah. And so if they don't get it, then the illegal aliens, the migrants or whatever, shouldn't get it. You know, it shouldn't be no anchor baby situation going on.
Why solve for that through what I would argue is a pretty poor proxy, whether or not you're talking about a safeguard? If there could be a safeguard to ensure that you have leaders in this country or citizens of this country that have a better understanding of that, I would love that safeguard. I personally believe that every high school senior should have to be able to pass a basic civics test, the one we ask immigrants to pass, before becoming a voting citizen of this country. Before you cast that ballot in a ballot box, you better darn know what branch of government the president leads. And yet, you actually have more people who would fail the test that naturalized citizens are likely to pass who aren't even naturalized citizens. Why not solve for the actual target that you and I both care about, which is loyalty and an understanding of what you're actually pledging loyalty to, rather than using what I would argue is a left-like false proxy target that you use to solve for the same thing?
It isn't really true that the seventh generation WASPs are voting worse than the immigrants. One of the problems with the immigrants we've been taking in, actually probably any immigrant, but definitely 90% of legal immigrants come from the third world. They're used to authoritarian governments. They block votes. And every 4 years, I have to hear about how, no, I think we're going to take the Hispanic vote this year. I think we're going to get the Asian vote. No, you're not Republicans. Every election is decided by slight movements of the white vote. Now, the fact that the white vote is that close yeah, okay, I hate 50% of them, but they're the ones who change their mind and look at the different candidates. It's much more easy to boss around people who've come from an authoritarian culture. And yes, take your point that this is, at least for this one position, president, you are looking at something other than just what the person actually believes. But nobody really knows what a person actually believes. So why not have a fail safe? I want to hear you say it. And I'd also be more comfortable if you're third generation and have some English or, British blood in you.
Okay, so there we have it. Ann Coulter. So basically she's saying, look, non-whites, they vote pretty much one way the majority of the time. Hispanic, black, whatever, Asian, they vote pretty much one way all the time. And the whites, they have differences. They think differently. And that's how the elections are decided. Now, as I close, I want to say this. That's a pretty interesting thing. So you can have white Anglo-Saxon Protestant presidents or just white presidents like we got right now, Joe Biden, the Catholic, quote unquote. But just because you have that person in office, I mean, is it a good person to have in office? Look at what we got going on right now with Joe Biden. And then what before that on the right, W and Dick Cheney and these guys, Slick Willie. Are we saying that because they're going to be a WASP or WASP like that they're going to be a good leader? Is that what we're going to say? Listen, I don't really care if the presidents are always white, always black, always Puerto Rican, or always Candy Stripe. But can we just get some good leaders in there? Can we get people that are not going to bankrupt this country? How much debt we got? 35 trillion. Okay, who are we going to blame on that? We're going to blame the immigrants, or are we going to blame those that are actually in charge? I'm just trying to really understand, trying to figure it out. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? Do you think that Ann Coulter made a point that, hey, the WASPs, that's who we should have in power for the president? Other things is different. But to be the president, that's who we should have in charge. Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. I say whoever's the best, be the best. It doesn't really matter to me. If they're always white, then so be it. If they're not, then so be it. I don't care. Let me get the best guy. That's all. And when you're trying to talk about the immigration and whatnot, you got to ask yourself, okay, who has the border wide open? Who has the border wide open? Is it Vivek Ramaswamy, who is in office right now with the border wide open? I mean, I'm just trying to understand who's doing what. Let's take accountability. If you say that the white culture should be the one to lead, okay, well, when you guys do wrong, own up to it. And if I was to say, oh, it should be blackity black, and then there was a black guy in office, okay, if he's doing wrong, I got to take accountability. I don't subscribe leadership to any particular race. And if I vote for a person and they do wrong, I'm going to say, you know what, I made a mistake. If they do right, I'm going to say, well, hey, that was a good decision. And I'm going to take accountability regardless. That's just how I am. But I guess not everyone's the same. Whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.